Good afternoon, everyone. For those of you who don't know who I am, my name is Evan Geyer. Today I'm doing a short movie on the implausible moment that approaches erroneously. Well, life isn't so simple, and I've lived it firsthand. I can testify that just because someone is a neighbor, attending an event of yours, or even family does not mean they have your interests in mind. In fact, these could potentially be the most critical or judgmental people of them all. Sometimes those closest are just objective, and sometimes those closest just might know too much and focus on the flaws. Truth is, many of us would rather be supportive of a statement that has no substance and yet is absence of any flaws than a statement that is communicative of a unique opinion, however, has flaws. Even if, like in politics, they're on the side saying they will collaborate and negotiate. Well, why would someone go with something where they know nothing about? How is that even possible? People don't do that. Well, look at the stock market, for example. Company stocks that have little or no public information available have been dramatically outperforming upon their IPO, even though people have been largely buying into a mystery. There is no historical chart to analyze, and the people are generally buying a mystery, something that's maybe been talked about for weeks and has little public history. There is no historical chart to analyze, and if we look at IPOs, some of the recent ones, like Circle Internet Group, which IPO'd at $31 a share, it was up over 100% on the first day. Then, after being up over 100% on the first day, Circle Internet Group tripled from there in less than 20 days. And it's a new IPO. People will embrace what can't be understood time and time again. Look at Bullish, which IPO'd at $37 and traded up to $75. Figma, which IPO'd at $33 a share and traded up to $142 a share. CoreWeave, which IPO'd at $40 a share and traded up to $187 a share. Even FatPipe, a company that I'd never heard of before preparing for this entertainment, IPO'd at $5.75 and traded up to $23 a share. All these moves were in a short period of time where investors were literally, at best, making quick decisions with limited information and generally just gambling, rolling the dice, hoping to hit a jackpot. I know people like a mystery or are capable of undervaluing what's right in front of them. I am guilty myself, and that's how I know. For some reason, my third year of college, what should have been an easy decision for student body president, wasn't going to be an easy decision. It was going to be an analytical decision. Interestingly, I became unwell that school quarter, and when the time arose to make that vote, which should have been easy, I wasn't around to make a mistake. So if people are this way, if people would bid up a stock like Webull Corporation, which IPO'd about $10 and bid up to $80 before the corporation even releases a single earnings report, how is anyone, supposed to be transparent and successful? Well, our history, in my opinion, is cluttered with figures we praise for the strangest reasons, like a result of some sort of tragedy, like Abe Lincoln or Martin Luther King Jr. And then there are the figures which we adore, who somehow got first place, like George Washington or even Michael Phelps. However, do we dig deeper, beyond the accomplishments? And if we did, you know, I don't believe transparency success has truly been accomplished yet. The question is if every occurrence the truth attempts to explain itself, it is sued, mocked, or fired, will we ever understand ourselves? Sometimes it's just about being in support of what we are close to, for better or worse. Our high school we graduated from, where the team has one win all year long. Well, let's support the team. That's where we went to high school. Our nephew who doesn't want help, or our father asking for forgiveness. Can we support them, for better or worse? What I'm trying to say is too often it is, what have you done for me? What can you do for me? And if you've done something for me, what else might I get? Yeah, maybe the message was a bit incorrect. However, look at the one term politicians throughout American history that failed re election once they hit the spotlight, irregardless of an economy that gave people the ability to be who they wanted to be within the leading economy in the world. And trusting what we know little about isn't new, and we did it to the politicians. You're in, I want something new. I don't know about it, but I want it. Look at First Solar. The IPO'd at under $30 per share, then within a few months was trading over $300 a share. As more information trickles out, share prices adjust. And it's my hope that everyone has that someone that will stand by them, flaws and all. No matter how lopsided an election I might be in, I won't regret those votes that didn't vote Evan and instead stood by someone, flaws and all. Yes, the 2026 primary and general elections are approaching, with the 2026 primary now less than a year away. And of course, I would like to make an awesome first impression because that's what people will know. There will be a lot of people who will not understand the whole Evan. I wouldn't want to be that politician who has the price of oil spike 10% on the first day I take office and be misunderstood. If my local relationships work out the way I hope, I would have confidence in opportunity. Opportunity given, it is my worry in the future that people get jealous and desire another in my place. Maybe the next IPO in the midst of all the turmoil, demanding more than is possible. Like a corporate strike that hammers a stock price, forces a company to outsource or cease business operations. Well, my answer has become to not accept an opportunity doomed to fail, and rather push for conditions that make possible getting through the turmoil. And I don't know, however, I expect a positive to negative to positive. Without a 10-year term, I really don't think I feel I have gotten an opportunity, and to keep myself from being corrupt, I would like to be the vice, limited to 3 terms in a row. We just need to acknowledge that non renewables are easy, and that's why we've used them. Since non renewables are easy, a life that is civil and worthwhile without is still a question. The implausible moment approaches erroneously. The afternoon where there will be some sort of result is nearing, and nearing in the wrong manner for me, I feel. The odds that my thesis, that the report and understanding I have developed become trust and show honesty, feel like low odds with Judgment Day approaching. As much as I could argue, the economy isn't improving. More businesses are closing than opening. Interest rates are much higher than my initial 2020 campaign. as I described. The Russell 2000 hasn't made new highs in almost 4 years. Unemployment and inflation are higher than desirable today. However, oil prices are basically in the mid 60s, and not all oil and gas exploration and production companies are doing well. In fact, the sector as a whole is down over the last year, while big technology companies have soared. Yet again, and rightfully so, investors and the public point to the price of oil being in the mid 60s, quote, fair prices. However, there is clearly a problem. The question is, does the problem show itself, or do I somehow become the problem? The options markets are betting just about a 5% chance that oil trades over $100 by early next year, while the odds double that oil trades over $100 through January 2027, which would be showing the problem. When the newly elected sit and begin to govern, who is elected will be decided months earlier. And the worry is two pronged that the data is either good enough where an uprising isn't needed, or where the situation is so bad that instead of building our future, we are fighting amongst ourselves for nutrition. Something that could be totally managed for the short term could just fall off a cliff one day, and we find ourselves without the resources to transition. Measuring inflation in the terms of oil at 100 by early 2027 would place us over 20% inflation. And waiting another 2 years, not getting election results, kicking the can down the road, the situation will only accelerate to 35%, then 60%, potentially reaching $216 a barrel by 2029. Then continued and increasingly slow acceleration in the price to reach about $350 sometime in 2030. These numbers are assuming the government doesn't intervene and doesn't sell oil from the reserves, which is important because the scenario is targeted to occur within the next 5 to 6 years, and that isn't long enough to transform the economy to renewables. In fact, we will need to have oil reserves to lean on to maintain a civil society throughout the economic transition. The strategy of the Strategic Oil Reserve should follow the plan to create an artificial ceiling on the price of oil at $350 a barrel, which will hopefully allow the United States to get through what will be the most testing in our history. No, my $350 barrel per oil price target scenario assumes short term interest rates a bit lower than today's 4.5%. It assumes intervention in the bond markets to keep the U.S. 30-year bonds below the natural rate after some sort of breakout. And it assumes continued increases in government expenditures of more than 10% annually, excluding the extra costs of debt servicing. So my forecast considered and does consider neglect of the problem or the status quo. It's really looking at not the problem not being addressed, how we get there. Or, you know, the timeline could change if they address it in the wrong manner. However, it could become unfixable. So my forecast considered and does consider neglect for the problem. It's assuming neglect. And my forecast does not consider intervention or government interference below $350 a barrel. Going through the variables, it is understood how even the top 1% of analysts can become incorrect, as being an analyst requires price targets on individual commodities or stocks, and yet the factors that can influence that outcome are numerous and ever changing, which really keeps the numerical truth as an improbability. That's Evan on the erroneous truth, or the implausible moment that approaches erroneously. I will talk to you later and see you.